So when we're trying to understand what climate zone we're in, what we're asking basically is, what is the range of temperatures you have? Is it basically the same all the time? Do you have a rainy season? Do you have winter, spring, summer, fall? Do you have all four of them? Is winter 6 months, or is it 2 months, or is it 1 month, or does it never come, right? So if you understand really all of the weather data that happens in your region where you're trying to build, then you can build something that is appropriate and responds and is symbiotic with that particular climate. If you have all four seasons, right? If you have something you call winter, something you call spring, something you call summer, etc., you are in a mixed climate. Generally, the issues there are that you're going to need to heat in winter and probably have some way to stay cool in summer, depending on how hot it gets in summer. If you're in a temperate climate, the fluctuations aren't as great. In other words, winter isn't as long and not as cold. You might never need a winter jacket, right? Summer might not be as long and might not be as warm. So the seasons are generally more mild, and you have very little need for heat or for cooling. So that would be a temperate climate. So basically comfortable all the time. And that is the easiest climate to design for no heat, no cooling. That is the easiest one to solve. There should be nobody who lives in a temperate climate that needs heating or cooling. It's not a thing. A tropical climate is hot, warm or hot, and quite humid, right? You might have periods of monsoon, you might have daily rainfall. So lots of rain, lots of humidity. Generally, heating yourself is not an issue. Cooling yourself is quite an issue. Dealing with humidity is usually quite an issue. And then a desert climate is warm or hot, but it's arid. There's no humidity, and it's warm or hot generally year round. Your challenge in each of those climates is the thing you're going to solve for. So your challenge in a mixed climate is that you need to both have a way to stay warm in winter and have a way to stay cool in summer. You have to solve both problems. In a temperate zone, generally what you're trying to solve for is taking out temperature swings. That could be daytime to nighttime temperature swings. It could be weekly basis temperature swings, right? In a tropical climate where it's humid, your main problem that you are trying to solve, your challenge, is staying cool and addressing humidity. And in a desert climate, it's just staying cool, right? So that's what you're trying to solve for. If you understand what you're trying to solve for, then you can look for the material that will solve that for you. So if you are heating, you are looking at, where is the sun? How can I capture that free radiant energy from the sun? Can I use thermal mass, so heat storage battery, to absorb and store the energy from the sun? Is there a way to take advantage of the constant ground temperature? So everywhere in the world, the ground temperature, unless you have a thermal pocket, the ground temperature is 57 degrees below the frost zone. So is there a way to take advantage of that? And usually you want to block wind, because wind will cool you down. And what you're trying to do is stay warm. And that can be done with conifers, non-deciduous trees, for example. If you're trying to stay cool, again, you can take advantage of the constant temperature of the ground, right? So that one benefits you either way, because if the ground temperature is always 57 degrees and comfort is roughly 70 degrees, if the swing in temperature is the same change in temperature between what the ground is and what your comfort is, it's very easy to either warm yourself up to that temperature or cool yourself down. You're also you're gonna look for available shade. You're gonna look for water bodies. The way that the ground slopes. So when you have a valley, often you have cool air dropping down the slope in the evening. If you're trying to cool, that is beneficial. If you're trying to stay warm, that's not beneficial. So you might move where your building site is located, depending on your relationship with these site features. So we're understanding our region. So what is the weather? And we're understanding the specifics of our site, which is your microclimate. Then we're going to refer back to mass and insulation. So insulation, as a reminder, blocks the flow of heat transfer from one side to the other. Thermal mass conducts heat energy into it and stores it in the mass. So it's a battery for heat energy. And depending which climate you're in will depend on what your strategy is for using insulation and mass. So if you're in a mixed climate, you have 4 seasons. There's times you want to be warm. There's times you want to be cool. Then you want to maximize the insulation around you and then use thermal mass inside that insulation and use passive solar design. So using free energy from the sun to warm that mass inside the insulated bubble. If you live in a temperate zone where you might have slight seasons, let's say, you have moderate winter, moderate summer, it's really the same kit of parts. Use insulation behind you, outside, between you and outside, use thermal mass inside, and use passive solar design to impact when you're getting heat gain and when you're keeping your thermal mass shaded and cooling you. The thermal mass will eliminate temperature swings inside an insulated bubble. So if the temperature isn't swinging very much outside because you live in a temperate climate, then the temperature inside and that thermal mass will also not fluctuate very much. And so it keeps the inside of your space an even temperature all the time, just because you chose those materials. We'll talk more about this during the insulation and mass lesson. If you live in a climate that is always warm or hot and very humid, then you want shade, 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 shade. And you want a way to actively cool the roof and a way to control humidity. And clay is your best friend because clay has the unique property of absorbing humidity out of the space. So if you shade a thermal mass material fully so that it has no energy inputs, no sun, no fire, it's fully in the shade, and that mass is made out of clay, it will be cooling the temperature and absorbing excess humidity, and therefore creating comfort in that tropical climate. If you're in a desert climate that is exclusively hot, again, you're trying to cool, cool, cool. And so shaded mass is your best friend, and evaporative cooling, where you have air flowing over water and cooling, actively cooling the air through physics, not through machines. Then you have a cool energy input that's humid in a space that is shaded and cool and has a lot of mass. Then we're going to always, always, always remember what our relationship to the sun is, and that the sun is lower in the winter and higher in the summer.